Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to the Aha Moments Radio Show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of enlightened living worldwide with your host, Mariana Cooper, founder of Aha Moments International and AhaMomentsWorld.com. Tune in for the next hour and learn to trust your Aha Moments to lead the way to live a passionate and purposeful life. And now here's your host, Mari.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Aha Moments Radio Show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of enlightened living worldwide. I'm Mari, and happy Tuesday. Today we are talking about a hot topic, as they say, and that topic is actually a question. Can your friends slow down your manifesting? And this one came to me as I was driving somewhere, who knows where. So much, I've been doing so much lately. And it hit me, I was thinking about friends and friendships and how they shift and change and how we have a tendency to put a whole lot of emphasis and attention on learning how to navigate through romantic types of relationships or familial types of relationships. But when it comes to friendships, it's kind of a free-for-all. There's no rules, there's no protocol per se. It's just kind of ripshod in all directions. And I know with women in particular, men handle their friendships very differently. So I think we're going to be slanted a little bit more towards women. With women in particular, friendships are so important. We really lean into our friends for a myriad of reasons. But they also can get very, very twisted and very, very complicated, I should say. So today I wanted to talk about how your friends can actually slow down your manifesting, and I think it's really important to keep this in mind because there's a lot of nuances that you have to sometimes have your own agenda, and that's okay. And a lot of people feel that it's not. They have to always be pleasing everyone else. So we're going to get into that in a few minutes. I wanted to go through a couple of announcements and let you know we'll be taking some calls tonight. If you guys have questions, the number to call in is 347-215-9485. That's 347-215-9485. So this week we are still in the tail end of winding down Mercury in retrograde. It ends on Thursday, on October 9th. And so 3 more days of this. And then you want to give it about 3 days before you do anything major. But by this time next week, and actually by the end of the week, by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you'll start to feel lighter. There's just no way you won't. This has been a very, very heavy season because we had the equinox, we had the big eclipse, we had a full moon. There's just been a tremendous amount going on energetically. So if you have been feeling bogged down and overwhelmed and exhausted, and you're not putting out a book like me, and you're wondering what is going on, that all of those atmospheric things can really wreak havoc. And there is an angel. Her name is Archangel Haniel. It's Haniel. And if you have been going through a lot of upheaval or just feeling really out of sorts or just flat out depleted, you might want to call on her to sort of support you because she really governs over the moon phases and energy cycles, and interplanetary energy cycles, and all the effects that those interplanetary changes have on us, on our bodies, on our psyches, and whatnot, so on our energetic fields. So if you want, you can, light a candle and just, kind of meditate on her or with her and, communicate however you want. You can journal and call in her energy to help you sort of ease things up on your energy field. So, again, if you want to call in later, you can to ask a question. If you want to call in to ask a question later, I suggest you call in now because we do have quite a few on the line, and Sam will be going through and putting everybody in the queue for me for a little bit later in the show. The number is 347-215-9485. 9485. Okay, so let's get into the topic for today. I know I have some other announcements that I'll wait a little bit later to do that because this is a big one. You know, I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, and she was like screaming at the topic, like, oh my gosh, this is it, I need this, and I think that when it comes to friendships, especially female friendships, it's something that we don't spend a whole lot of time considering. We just sort of plow through them, right? You know, and women, we have all kinds of things going on. We have our families that we're taking care of. We have businesses that we're running. We have, older family members perhaps that we're taking care of. We have career concerns, we have money concerns, and we have a tendency to, we have our bodies, our health and all that kind of stuff, and we have a tendency to lean into our friends for a whole lot of stuff. And I know that I've had, I've over the years, since I don't have kids, I have a lot of time to think about a lot of different things that a lot of people who are, who have kids and families don't have as much time to sort of sit and ponder and contemplate. And also because I do readings and because I do a lot of coaching and mentorship, the mentorship program and everything, I have had the privy of seeing a huge number of people, listening to a huge number of people talk to me about what they're going through with their a zillion different types of problems, but the friendships in particular definitely come up. So I see a much higher concentration of certain tendencies than the average person would who's not, in the business of doing what I do. And I've actually talked to colleagues who are in the business, and it is a universal thing that, friendships, especially female friendships, need some thinking about, because there's no manual, obviously, and but there are several categories. So like when we're looking at men and women, friendships, when we're looking at romantic relationships, we're looking at there's books on it, Mars and Venus, right? The guys are this, the girls are that, and this is how you bring them together. Then there was also that book, there's a really old book now, it's called The Rules, and this is how, the woman should act so the guy will be attracted to her. And then, you go into any bookstore, you see the self-help section for relationships, and it's just, packed with people, men included, and everybody's trying to figure it out. They're taking the time to figure it out. But how many people are taking the time to figure out how to navigate their friendship, their same-sex friendships, And so this has been on my mind, especially now. It's interesting because we usually have categories of friends, right? You can call in and let me know if you agree with this. You don't have to. But I think we usually have these categories of friends. We have our social friends and the ones that we'll go out and we'll hang out with, and, that we kind of keep things kind of light with. And then we have our, what I call our familial friends. We have business friends, right? The ones that we do business with, the ones that we are, we have at work, perhaps. We have, and so of course, it's, there's thousands of different versions of all of this, and there's some friends that straddle across all of it. I've had some of my closest friends start off as work friends, and they've become what I call familial friends. Those familial friends are the ones that you kind of keep for a lifetime, the ones that you can always lean on, that like as if they were family, and you can go through ups and downs and argue and go through different life changes, and even go through long periods of time where you don't even talk to each other, but you can kind of pick up as if you were talking every single day. We all love those friends. They're kind of like our soulmate friends, our twin flame friends even. And then there's all the other ones, right? So the ones that are more seasonal friends, the ones that, you might meet somebody at the gym and you go on the elliptical machine together, but you kind of, it's not really the person you want to sit and have dinner with, or, maybe they're just somebody that you see around, that kind of a thing. And then you have the ones that are kind of in between. So they're not quite familial, but they're intense enough in your life that they're affecting your world. And those are the ones that I wanted to talk about today, because this is where, the ones that are familial, you kind of deal with them. But what about the ones that you're spending a whole lot of time with, but you feel like there's a drag on your energy in some way, shape, or form. A lot of times, friendships are as good as your communication, your ability to communicate, right? So sometimes we have, we all have that friend, at least in my business, because I do readings and because I have a degree in psychology and I was a counselor before I got my business degrees and all that. I happen to have a lot of answers for people. I just do. It's just I'm the wise one of my friends. I'm not necessarily the one that you're going to go to change your tire or, ask for a new recipe or something like that. But I am the one that everybody comes to for Mari's, advice, So that can get draining because that's something that, because I do it at a professional level, because I do it at a very high professional level, it's not something that could easily be reciprocated because they're not doing thousands of readings, don't have psychology degrees and all that. So sometimes it has to be that you have to have a boundary, right? So all of you, I'm sure, have something that your friends come to you with, and it might be, some people are doctors, some people are attorneys, some people are nurses, some people are, teachers or accountants and these types of things. And so it does, your career can sometimes put pressure on your friendships because your friends want to come to you as a friend for advice, but then there's a line, right? There's a line to how much advice do you give without feeling drained, and how much advice do you give without feeling resentful or used under the guise of friendship. So that's one piece. Then you have the ones who are competitive, right? And I'm sure, and because when I was talking to my client yesterday, she's like, oh yes. We have the ones that we do a lot of comparing and competing. Now, a lot of people don't even know they're doing comparing and competing. But essentially, and this is when we're going to get to the manifesting part of this in a minute, and this is a great segue into that. When we have our friends, we have a certain level, right? There's a certain energy to each friendship that you have. And there's a certain allowance of allowance of dissension, meaning that let's say you have two people and there's certain times that you see one person and they're going to, and they kind of count on each other staying kind of the same. Like my friend Joan and I were laughing the other night because she's the intellectual and I'm the intuitive. So, we're always, she's super, super smart. And I'm super, super intuitive. So she'll say, well, I saw this report and that report and this report. And I'm like, well, my energy says this. And we're always laughing. So one day she went on the intuitive side and I went on the intellectual side. And I said, whoa. You got to get back in your lane. You're not supposed to be the intuitive. I'm the intuitive. You're the intellectual. We were laughing about it because we do. We have kind of standards. You have these kind of recipes for each other, right? And we kind of have an expectation of who's the go-to person for which thing, or how each of our friends processes their world, right? So it doesn't mean that Joan isn't intuitive and I'm not intellectual, but I process my world way, 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 way more from the energy side, and she does way, way, way more from the intellect. And that's one of the reasons why we're compatible, is because we both bring something different to the table. But when we switch up, it's a very interesting, it could be a very interesting conversation. Sometimes, though, when you have that kind of situation where one of your friends starts to pull away, because let's say you both want a new boyfriend, and then somebody gets the new boyfriend. What happens? How many of you have been, abandoned because somebody's gotten a new boyfriend, and or girlfriend for that matter, or new friend. That I call those the dumpers, where they just want you around to keep them company until they go and get into a codependent relationship with someone else. Because believe me, whatever boyfriend is taking that person on has now got a real load on his hands because they don't have boundaries and they're going to latch onto them, the way they were, and be, anything that starts off really fast can end really fast too. So they're going to get that intensity instead of you. But when I talk about competing and comparing, what we do in our female-to-female friendships, and I apologize for any kind of gender pronoun issues here, but, I'm just doing this for the sake of time and for the sake of, keeping myself organized here. So when we're talking about these platonic friendships, a lot of times there's a certain, it's just like ranges of energy in a romantic relationship. There's certain expectation of a level, right? So when one person outpaces the other person or starts to look like they're moving in another direction, silently, a lot of times, what you're going to get is, oh, man, I wish that was me. Oh, I really wish that was me. She's got, she's going to be dating and she's going to leave me. So then what do you get? You get, instead of getting that big, exciting, oh, my gosh, I'm so happy for you. You met the guy for dreams. Oh, my goodness. You get, oh, well, that's nice. Okay, well, I have to go. I have to go mop my floor. And you're like, what happened? I thought we've been talking about like this kind of thing. We're doing all these different, dating things together. And now all of a sudden, she doesn't want to know from it. And that's a comparing and competing type of situation. You have, a little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy. And that has to be metabolized in the friendship. If it's not, in some way, shape, or form metabolized, meaning, sort of folded in where you can talk about it, or, where the person who's getting the new boyfriend is sensitive and the one who is sensitive to the feelings of the other one, and the other one isn't comparing and competing to the point where, they're being a killjoy to the other person's good fortune. If you don't, take some time to manage that, that's when you start to get that negative drag in your friendships. And then you get the passive-aggressive stuff, right? You get those layers of passive-aggressive. And all of this can have a serious effect on your ability to manifest the things that you're looking for. So if you are a light worker, which I know most of you are who are listening on into this show, I venture to say all of you, when you're doing your manifesting work, you're coming up with an idea for, what you want, whatever that is. One of the most important things you can do, and you can hear this from any major spiritual leader, prosperity consciousness leader, new thought leader, whatever, the words are, Catherine Ponder. It's even in the Bible, believe it or not. And I was actually going to try to look up the scripture for that, but I didn't get a chance to. But it is in the Bible as well, because I've actually heard Joel Osteen talk about this as well. Across all of the different religions, even in the Kabbalah, across all of the different religions, they always say, when you have a desire, you need to keep it to yourself. You need to not tell everyone that you have this desire. I saw somebody put their vision board up on Facebook, and I said, oh, man, what a mistake. They're trying to Instagram their vision board. And, I'm going to get this, and I'm going to get that. And I have, or they Instagram like a picture of a car and this and all these things. And because we're all interconnected, and our energy is all interconnected with each other, someone else's negative thoughts about what you desire can absolutely put a negative drag on what it is you're trying to create. Okay? That absolutely can do it. So you want to have your own inner sanctum, your inner sanctuary, that you keep stuff to yourself. My friend and I were talking about this because I was telling her about the show last night, and we were talking about this, and I said, when you're manifesting, one of the big keys, the tools of working on a particular vision or something that you're really desiring and you're trying to create, is to be very emotional about it, right? To get really excited and amped up and not act as it, but become the version of you that already has that. So the version of you who's already a successful nurse, or, who's already in this beautiful, blissful marriage, or who's already, the perfect, body weight or whatever. You go into that space, you do that visioning, and you get the goosebumps. You're just so there. You're just in it. I know I go to the beach and I just envision, my house on the hill overlooking the beach, and I can feel myself, and I can feel a countertop. I can feel the light switch, turn on the light switch. I can smell the food that I'm cooking, the whole thing. And you get that amped up. You become so emotional. It feels so good. And the first thing you want to do is you want to share that with somebody. You want to be able to say, oh, my gosh, I can't believe it. It was like, I'm there. And you want to go and you want to tell somebody, oh, my gosh. I know when I was looking at houses, went to one of my friends, and I'm like, oh, my gosh, I just saw this amazing thing. This house was off the charts. And she says, oh, you're so ostentatious. Why do you always want such big houses? Well, what did that do? you know. It was a fire hose. It was just, now, you could say, oh, well, you should have more confidence and don't let that get you. Well, guess what? There is that point of impact. It's like somebody putting a knife in you, okay? And they put a knife in you and they twist it, and regardless of how you heal from it, it's giving your energy something to overcome. And that energy that you now have to shift from being in the moment of, you know, where you're moving forward to I have to now overcome their negative comment, their jab, or their comparing and competing, because the reason why they say, oh, you're so ostentatious, I would never want something like that, is because maybe they don't think they could ever get it. And they're looking at you through self-colored glasses. Like, you know, you hear she's looking at the situation with rose-colored glasses. They're looking at you. Everyone looks at you through their own self-colored glasses. The first thing when you say, I'm going to manifest this car, this house, or this career, or this business, the very first thing a person thinks to themselves is, could I do that? Would I want that? Do I think they could do that? And what's going to happen to me if they do that? And if they can't see themselves doing it, if they can't see, themselves giving themselves permission to think in that direction, they will, and they don't want to take the time to do that, or feel like they could never do it. It's human nature not to want you to do it too. So the first thing that comes out of their mouth is a criticism. It's a judgment. And so when you go and you express these things, you have to be very careful. Okay? You have to be very careful how you share. It's just like when you have a newborn baby and you don't want anyone near that baby without a mask on, without washing their hands. You're keeping, that baby is too fresh to the world. Their immune system isn't strong enough to handle someone who's got the flu and the cold and this and that, right? As your kid gets older, you send them to school and they're exposed to every germ under the sun, But your infant, your 1-day-old infant, your 2-day-old infant, your week-old infant, you're not letting everybody breathe all over that baby, So it's the same thing with the things that mean the most to you. And I'll tell you what, the friends who are the closest to you will have the biggest reaction. Why? Because they are the most dependent on you staying the same, because they lean into you. You mean something to them. It's the same thing with family members. And you want to always, when you're coming up with new dreams and new desires and new hopes, there's a very small handful of people, and you have to be very, very clean with this, who can really be unadulterated, this is probably not a real word, unadulteratedly, but, you get it, happy for you. That it can be kind of completely happy for you without any kind of negative drag. I'm going to tell you who the people you can share your dreams with, because there are people you can do it. But the ones who are closest to you, always pay attention. How is this how is this other person going to perceive this? And is this the time to bring this up to that person? You know how they view their world, okay? So if this person pretty much reacts negatively to every kind of new idea that you have, and they're more of a critical kind of a judging type of a person, then you don't want to bring your deepest, the underbelly of your soul kind of things to that person. Okay, but where do you bring them? Because you definitely want to be able to express yourself. I'm not saying that you don't express yourself and you just implode with excitement about what you're attempting to manifest. But there's two types of people you want to bring it to. One is what I call the perfect stranger. And the perfect stranger is the person who has no emotional, financial, or personal investment in whether it happens for you or not. So when you bring this up to them, they're just like, how cool is that? Cool for you. Awesome. Go, go, go. Most of the time you'll meet these people in workshops. They're new acquaintances. They're people, or you'll meet those people in different support groups. But they're not competing with you. There's no vested interest in whether you get it or not. So they have the bandwidth They're not looking at you through self-colored glasses. Okay? So that's one type of person you can talk to. The other type of person is somebody who's already done it. So, and done it with success. Because then there's, again, no comparing and competing. So, for instance, when I was riding horses, I had been riding for, I don't know, how old am I? I had, 30 years of riding. I haven't ridden in a while, so I can't say I'm doing it right now. But I was in that whole business, and I was competing quite a bit. And so I would put my horse at barns with Olympic trainers. Because when I would go to the barns with the local trainer, the one who was kind of at a lower level, not necessarily the lowest level, obviously, a little bit, but who was like, a few years ahead of me or a few, levels ahead of me, but hadn't been to the Olympics or anything huge, that person would only let me get as far as it still made her feel comfortable to teach me. So no one will ever let you get further than they've gone themselves. So I learned very early on in my riding career that when I would stay with the local trainer, they might be cheaper and all that, I would kind of sort of level off at a certain level. She wouldn't push me. Okay? And then I said, you know what? I would go to these clinics. They're like kind of learning like lessons with a different, with a big trainer who comes in for the day or the weekend, and you go, you bring your horse. You take a one-off kind of a lesson with them. And I would go to these clinics, and they would bring in these Olympic trainers, and that trainer would tell me so much stuff, and my horse would just, boom. It would just, all these things that weren't clicking for weeks and months and months and months, they wouldn't click, And then with this Olympic level trainer, she's like, no. And I remember this gal, Ashley Nicole, she was on the Canadian Olympic team. I'll never forget this. And she takes Tucker, my horse, and she says, this is what you need to see. His neck should be doing this, and his back should be doing that, and his shoulders. Look, when you're sitting on the horse, look where your shoulders are. Look at that. I mean, unbelievable. In 45 minutes, this horse was going like $1 million. And it wasn't because she was sitting on him. She was teaching me the more advanced stuff. Why? Because she wasn't scaling herself down to keep me at a certain point. And I literally went back to my barn, gave notice, and moved within the next week so I could go train with this lady. And from that point on, I would not train with anybody who wasn't on the team or, had been to at least the Pan Am Games. Why? Because now I was no threat to them. I wasn't anywhere near their level. So they gave me the breath, because when they've done it, when they've done the biggest stuff, especially when they've done it multiple times, the next big goal for them is, how can I get my student to be going to the Olympics? I've done it 3 times. Wouldn't it be a great coup to be able to train a horse and rider team up to that level? Right? So there was no more threat. So when there was no more comparing and competing. They've already done it. When I'm working on my book, and I talk to Sandra Ann Taylor, she's a really dear friend, known her for years. She's with Hay House, and she's a New York Times best-selling author. The conversation with her, she's been with Hay House for 13, 14 years. The conversation with her about our editors and our photographers and, whatever, publishers and all this and whatever, speaking engagements, that conversation is so expansive. Why? She's not the least bit threatened by me. She's got 10 books. She's, it's no big deal. But you talk to somebody else who hasn't gotten a publisher yet, and they're like, well, that's really great, Mari. Oh, that's nice. Well, good for you. And because they're looking through self-colored glasses. So those are the 2 types of people that you want. That's who you can share your dreams with, because they're going to say, yeah, of course. Go into my friend, she's a photographer. She's a magnificent home here in California. I mean, enormous, gorgeous home. When I was talking to her about some of my dreams about my new home, I never heard, oh, you think too big. Oh, that's too much house. What do you need that for? You're single. You don't have kids. What do you need all that? She's just married with her husband. She doesn't have kids. She's got this huge house. She's creative. She's an artist, so of course. She wants the space. She entertains, et cetera, et cetera. I never was put down for my dreams with her, like I am with other people who can't perceive themselves getting it, so then they don't want you to have it. So, yes. The answer is yes, your friends can severely slow down your manifesting. And, when you expose your baby to a lot of germs, I don't care how protective you are of that kid. If its immune system isn't ready to support itself, it's going to get that cold from somebody who is holding it. So I want you to really protect your manifesting and do a good evaluation of what it is you're, trying to accomplish, and is this the right type of person to share those real, heartfelt dreams with. So you might say, well, what do I do with my closest friends if I can't talk to them about my biggest dreams? What you do is you have compassion, because they may not be at the same level as you are. They don't have to buy into every single thing that you're doing. They have free will. Okay? And then you also scale, the things that you can talk about. That, everybody you have those friends for a reason, right? So you scale yourself and you say, okay, there's certain things that, absolutely I can go and have that conversation, but these really sacred things, your inner sanctum, you always want to keep that inner, the things that are the most close to you, really close to the vest. And remember, the purer you keep your manifesting, your visions, the faster they come to fruition. And then the success and the tangibleness of it proves itself out. So the best way, like when I first came to California, my family, they weren't even talking to me. They were pissed off. I mean, it was a war, all-out war. And then here we've had a lot of healing, and they see, oh my gosh, the book is coming out. Oh, she did do this. She did do that. She just said she was going to do it. Now it's all tense. She actually did move to California. They couldn't believe it. They didn't think I was going. I kept saying, I'm going. And the day I said, okay, I hired the moving van, they're like, what? It was like it was like a tsunami. And so, but success is the best teacher, right? So, and people have a very, and then all of a sudden it's you get, the respect comes when they see that tangible thing. It's come to fruition. Now they brag about, oh, she moved to California. Look at all the stuff she did. She got the books. It's amazing, because 2 years ago, a totally different conversation, right? So there's certain people that you have to just let the actualization of what you desire lead the way. And then you go to the strangers or to the people who are already doing what you want to be doing to share, kind of that more intimate dream with. Okay? So, let's see. I see a lot of you are on the line, so let me just make sure that I covered what I wanted to. Okay, let me just talk about this one more next thing, and then we're going to go into some reading. So, when you're looking at your friends, and I mean, God, this could be a whole course. When I do the self-love project, I have a new class coming out in the next, I guess, week and a half, 2 weeks. And when we do the self-love project, there's going to be a whole module on this in that course, because I think this is so important, is how do I love myself and keep my friends at the same time, because a lot of times we have to set boundaries, right? And there's two things I wanted to talk about. One is setting boundaries. The other one is breaking up with our friends, because sometimes we do have to say, okay, this is just not working. I want you to evaluate, especially because you're working on manifesting projects. I want you to evaluate how much negative drag you have in a day. What do I mean by negative drag? Call it mental clutter, emotional clutter. Now, of course, it's physical and energetic clutter, but right now I'm talking about mental and emotional clutter. A lot of that clutter happens from the company you keep. Okay, so if you go and you look at your cross-section of friends, you look at them, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. You don't have to go writing to them and saying, I was listening to Mari, and she said, get rid of you. Don't say that, all right? But what I want you to do is really look at your cross-section of friends and say, is this friendship nourishing to me? And am I the best person I can be for that person? Because if I say a friend's name to you and you immediately say, oh gosh, well, I'll tell you what I like about her. Like, she's good because she can always go to the movies when I want to, but It's exhausting, But at least I don't have to go to the movies by myself. That's like having McDonald's, Is that drag? Is the drag negative drag, meaning like a drag is like when you have the wind coming to the car and it slows the car down, so they have those like fins on it, so the aerodynamics work better. So is the negative drag from each friendship that you look at worth the reward? If you're going through, if you go to the movies with Janie and then you go out for dinner afterwards, and that dinner conversation melts down into gossip and criticism and judgment and putting you down for all the things you like and all that. You didn't want to be lonely for the movie, but is that that conversation worth, like, how much do you have to overcome after you finish talking to Janie? And is it worth it to soothe the loneliness feeling? And then you have to ask, am I really being a genuine friend? Because I'm kind of using her to keep from being lonely, but I really don't want to know anything that she's talking about. I don't really want to be present for anything she has to say. So then how good of a friend are you being, right? So when you look at your friendships and you evaluate, is this nourishing? Is this a friendship of convenience? Am I a housemate with this person and I need the money? Am I kind of trapped with this person, and so have I entrapped myself with this particular person? And then are you really being an authentic friend, or are you, being codependent on each other? And I've seen this, over and over again. I had two friends, and I'd go out with one, and she'd talk horrible about the other, and then I'd go out with the other, and she'd talk horrible about the first one. And it just became, like, it was such a trial. Now none of us are friends anymore because it was just too much, too much drag, it just became to the point where it's like, I love margaritas, but I can't. I just can't. This is just not. I walk away and I feel like I need a drink to cover the conversation I just had over the drink, like I can't. So you have to say, is it time? Is it the healthiest, most compassionate thing for me to no longer be in this friendship? If it was a boyfriend, we don't have 5 and 10 boyfriends, right? So we would say, okay, this one's not working. Okay, I'm done with that one. I'm going to go try to date that one. We kind of try to keep it singular, But with our friendships, we collect them. We never really break up. And then when we do, it's a big, explosion, or shutdown or an abandonment where you just stop talking to someone. It's like, she stopped talking to me, and I don't know why she's not talking to me, but she just put a wall up and she's done. So you want to communicate with people and you want to have respect, but you want to evaluate. So it's evaluate, and then you want to sort of categorize in your head, is this worth? Is this a friendship that's nourishing to me, and is this a friendship that I am nourishing back? You want to look at balance. Is this a balanced interaction with a person? When you think about your familial friends, we have highs and lows, right? There's times like I was in major crisis over the summer, major crisis, and my familial friends were the ones who really helped me through. And because they can handle that, because they know a much longer span of my life, they know it's not normal for me. But your new friends maybe can't handle all of that, right? Because they're too new. It's too much weight on them. They're too new. So you want to say, are you nourishing? Is this friendship nourishing to me, and am I nourishing to it? Am I being honest? Because everyone deserves an honest person. Everyone deserves a person who's there for the right reasons. Okay? And then you want to, if you have to break up with a friend, a lot of times it's better to break up with a friend than to just try to keep collecting them and doing all kinds of passive-aggressive things. You might want to just say, listen, you know what? I really appreciate that we've been friends for this long, but it's just not working. And I don't think that I can really bring my best foot to the table. And this is, you're not for that for me. And let's just give each other the space to have somebody else show up in our lives that is a better fit. And I wish you well and move on. No one teaches us how to break up with friends. And especially women go crazy. And they talk about each other and gossip, and she said, and it was all her fault. And it just becomes so complicated. And guess what? If your manifesting is going slow, all of that negative drag, especially if you have 10 friends and 3 of them are your kind of like sister friends, and then you know, 7 of them are not. And each one you kind of have something to overcome. You know how much mental clutter that is, and emotional clutter? So you're better off having a few high-quality, nourishing friendships and relationships, kind of letting the others be, you know, acquaintanceships for, you know, activity type of thing. And when you're in those activities, you don't have to tell them every single thing. They don't have to know your manifesting project. They don't have to know, you know, your latest results to your mammogram and all. They don't have to know everything. You know, they can be the person you're on the elliptical machine with. Keep it light. Enjoy yourself. And move on. You know, a lot of people, they jump into a friendship and they just try to be intimate. Intimacy, you know, from the word hello. And intimacy happens over a long period of time where you both hit up against something and you get through it together in a positive way, and you build up a trust that you can count on that person. And that's when they earn the right to hear more of your closer to the vest types of stories, and vice versa. You know, I've had people where they say hello, and then they're trying to be like on you, just jump on you. You know, I've seen much more of that now as my career, you know, my success level is going up. So it's like there's an interesting shift that's happening as people hear what I do, or somebody introduces me as so-and-so and whatever, a radio show, whatever, and the eyes get wide, oh, and when the people say, oh, this is Mari, and she's a psychic, and I'm like, oh, God, don't ever introduce me as a psychic, because it shuts down the whole room. Now nobody's paying attention to anybody else anymore because they want to know, is she going to see my dead grandmother? Is she going to, you know, answer this question? And they kind of, and then I just shrink. I just, like literally, like, you know, kind of just like the Wicked Witch of the West has had water on. I just sort of just literally shut myself down because I don't want to be that person in the room that, you know, it becomes work, you know. So I hope this has helped you and to start to think about. I mean, this is a way bigger topic than, you know, on a radio show, 40 minutes on a radio show, but I wanted to bring it up because when we start talking about the self-love project in the next week or so, this is part of that. Okay, part of your own self-care is who you surround yourself with. And quite frankly, it's really important for women to have a good set of girlfriends if they want a healthy relationship with their spouse, even if, you know, same-sex spouse or opposite-sex spouse, because no spouse should take the load, everything. That's when you could get that codependency. So starting to evaluate your platonic relationships and the quality of that, and what are you bringing to the table? Are you just looking at everybody to just give you advice and be your dumping ground? I had one friend say, well, you're my counselor. You're my counselor. And I said, I'm not your counselor. She got really, really upset and offended. But that wasn't my job. I'm not a therapist, you know. And if I am, then pay me to be a therapist, and then I can. But I'm still not going to do it because I know you too well, and I can't be objective, you know. And so, but there was boundaries, and we have to have boundaries. And if you're going and dumping on, you know, your friends, and you know who you are, who's doing that, you need to back it up and start to look at, you know, what am I bringing to the table? Am I, you know, I've said about men, they need to bring something more to the table than a knife and fork. You got to bring a bag of groceries, bring some pots and pans, bring some dishes. You just can't come and eat all the time, right? So you want to evaluate your friendships. How good a friend have you been? And do you need to be that level of friend for every single person you meet? No, it's an earned, you know, status to become intimately involved with a friend. I'm not talking about sexual intimacy. I'm just talking about, you know, building that kind of relationship, that strong friendship. Each earn it with each other, right? And then that way you can build that trust, and you can be able to say, you know what, you just slayed my dream. I just told you about something, and you just slayed it. You just slayed it. What are you doing? And I say, oh my God, I didn't mean that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And then you can move on. Right? That's how you advance these friendships. All right. So I'm going to stop there because I see there's so many of you on the lines, which is great. If you'd like to try to jump in on one of these calls, it's 347-215-3776. 9485. Okay, so if you have been waiting, I got to just get a drink of tea here. I'm talking for too long. If you have been waiting, please get back to your phone so that when we open the line, we don't miss you. And Sam, the first person we are going to talk to is Jody in Portland. Hi, Jody.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I was wondering, there's a friend I've been friends with for a few decades, and I just saw her when I visited the Bay Area. And there's just always something, I always have these resentments, and part of me is just feeling like I want to throw out the friendship because I'm bothered by all this stuff. And then I don't know, like, well, what's my part? And I'm listening to what you're saying. It's really helpful, but I'm still, like, lacking clarity about it. And
are you on a speakerphone? Because I'm having a hard time understanding you.
I am.
Can you put the phone closer to your face? Because it's really hard to literally understand your words.
Okay. Can you hear me?
That's much better. Okay, start over, please, because you were going in and out.
Okay. There's a friendship I've had for a few decades, and I was just visiting this friend in the Bay Area, and I feel like the quality of the friendship has been bothering me for a long time, and I just don't have clarity, and I feel like sometimes she just wants me to be captive, like her captive art audience, and I feel that competition and comparing thing. And there's just something I feel like she's not really on my side, and she's going to dump me for like some other more interesting international person. Like just something that makes me mad, and I don't know what to communicate with her or not, or how to move on or not. And I'm lacking clarity about that, but full of resentment.
But it sounds like you have the clarity that she's not. You have to ask yourself: is she nourishing to you, or is she like junk food, or is she kind of like? To me, she sounds like the kind of food you have an allergy to. Like, I know if I drink chai tea, like if I drink dairy, my ankles swell, I get congested, but it's so good, kind of like you can have a little bit of it, but then you're not having anaphylactic shock, but your body feels kind of yucky afterwards, so why bother? And that's the kind of thing you need to look at, is this nourishing to me? So clearly it's not. And are you holding on to her just because she's been around for a long time and you're afraid of the empty feeling that you might feel if she's not there?
It's that, and also there's something like I feel like I get from it. Like it's almost like this selfish thing that I'm getting, like from this person's creativity also. It's like the parasite in me doesn't want to have like the host part gone too. There's like something that's not so healthy about me too, I think.
Right, and that's probably what she's serving in your life is for you to sort of sort this out. At the end of the day, the first thing that when you're addicted, because a lot of times, and we didn't even go into this, maybe we'll do a part 2 and talk about addictions with friends, but a lot of times we have like a slight addiction to people as well. It's kind of like a food addiction in the sense that you crave the sugar, even though you've taught your body how to crave sugar because you eat so much of it, but it's having an ill effect. But you're craving it, kind of like when you get kidney and that type of thing. And so you can have the same kind of situation in when you're dealing with this type of friend. So, but in order to give up any addiction, it's really important to find the replacement because then the addiction loses its power. Right?
Right.
So what I would suggest you do is don't worry so much about what you're going to do with her, but focus on what is it that you really need for you. And then you can start to ask questions, how can I find a healthy version of this? Like, what is it that's really positive about her that you're sticking around? And, if you're looking for creativity and creative inspiration, there's, artist colonies. There's going to writers' retreats. One of the things I did when I was starting to write my book, I had, one friend is like, I'm going to write a book too. She wasn't even thinking about it, but she heard I was writing one, said, she had to write one. I went to a writer's retreat in Vermont, and I met complete strangers who were the most amazing role models and just so generous, and we're still friends to this day. In fact, I did a dedication to them in my book, in the front cover part of my book, because they gave me permission to be a quote real writer, because I was like, I'm not a writer, I'm a marketer, I don't know, and they're real writers, and so, but I put myself in a different colony. So did I need to deal with my friend who was like copycatting? No, I didn't even address it with Tuesday. I haven't addressed it with her. I just removed myself and place myself in an environment where I could get genuine nourishment from people, again, who were way further ahead than me, so there was no threat. They didn't know from me. They met me that weekend, so they didn't have any investment. She, my friend, who's been friends with me for a really long time, didn't want me to outpace her. She didn't want to be left behind, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't need to deal with it because I found my feed, because you're saying I need a new host, right? You need to go to an appropriate host. If there's somebody you're going to her for creativity on some level, she's feeling like she's being used, right? Because she knows, like, we all know that when we have an adversarial relationship, it's no fun for either person. She's conflicted as well, right?
Yeah.
So what I would say is focus on creating healthy new friendships, and then evaluate where she's at, because you may be able to kind of accept her where she is, and just see she's been around for a really long time, and she's just your curmudgeon-y friend from, wherever. She's not. You don't have to lean into her for anything. And then it's amazing what happens when you start to get healthy friendships and appropriate relationships with people in various sectors of your life. You can really be accepting for letting people be who they are. You don't need to change anybody.
Oh, that's nice. I need to learn how to be a better friend, too. I feel like I lack those skills a lot as well. Yeah.
Well, it's not a matter of lack. How many of us get taught any of this? Because we're so focused on find a husband or find a wife and be a good family member, but our friends, it's a complete free-for-all. Nobody's saying, how many times did your mother sit you down and say, now I want you to cultivate really good girlfriends, and this is how you treat Mary Jane, and this is how you treat Samantha, and this is how you treat, Roberta.
Right.
No. But they do say, I want you to be able to cook for that guy, and I want to make sure that you got to have sex with him 3 times a week to keep him happy, and we get that kind of advice. So how could you know?
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up. So I hope that's helped. I'm going to have to jump to the next person, but
it is. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thanks for asking a topic-centric question. I greatly appreciate that. Okay. Next, Sam, we have Kim in Alberta. Hi, Kim. Hopefully she's still there. Yep.
Yes, I am. Hi, Mari.
Hi.
Thank you so
much. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for your call. This is just so good. You're just so wise.
Thank you.
Well, you are. The last caller kind of answered some of my questions, but
Great.
I can ask another one. But,
okay, good.
I feel like I really do everything I'm, quote, supposed to do, unquote, when I manifest. But I'm not doing so great at it. I'm just wondering if you have any ideas.
Well, what is it that you feel you're doing that is the right thing? And when you say not so great at it, what's not happening that you think should be?
I don't share it with other people.
Okay.
I do get really clear on it and focus on it, and I have like an altar, and I don't visualize, so that's hard for me. So it takes a lot to get myself really excited about it, but I do have pictures up and things like that, so I can look at those and be excited.
I think I'm going to stop you there because I think I can see the one big kind of hole. The not visualizing part, if a lot of times people think, because visualizing puts something off in the distance, and when you put something off in the distance, it literally kind of, the intention behind that is, I don't already have it. I don't have it yet. So when you're saying, I will have something, you're basically commanding the universe, you're saying, I don't have it yet, right? So the visualizing isn't particularly necessary as you becoming that being that already has it. So it's a state. So there's a state of mind that you would have, let's say if you're a multimillionaire. That's a state. And then there's a state of mind if you don't have any money. right? That's the state of being homeless. And then there's the state of being in love, and there's the state of being a homeowner, and there's the state of being a, owner of a nice car. These are all states. There's a state of mind that you have when you are in your dream home. Now, that state of mind actually is not particularly heightened. You're not like walking around the house, oh my God, touching the walls. This is my dream home. Like some people visualize it. They're touching the walls and they're kissing the granite and they're petting the, the windows and they're looking at the. That's saying I don't have it yet, because that's not how you would be if you actually lived there. It becomes very neutral and very kind of normalized when you're actually in it. So what you want to do in your manifesting work is you want to close your eyes and you want to literally transfer yourself into that state. Not visualize it like it's on a movie, but you want to become that. So like you're sitting in your chair, you close your eyes, and instead of visioning yourself, you're now sitting, let's say you want a new house. Instead of visioning yourself, in a movie in this new house, you have your hands on the arms of your chair in your current, place. You close your eyes, and now that chair is in that new house. How do you feel? And that's the point. It's how do you feel? You have to be in the state, okay? And that's different than projecting yourself out into a visioning process. Do you see the difference, the distinction?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
That's going to change everything because that's when you start to get the goosebumps, because you can become physiologically in alignment with being it. And what people forget about manifesting, and this is like more advanced, I teach this in all my advanced class and my mentorship programs, manifesting is not about willing something to yourself or projecting out in the universe and then hoping that some big being drops it on our heads or somehow it shows up in our life. Manifesting is literally shifting into the frequency of the version of you that already has it. There is no such thing as linear time. It's a parallel. We're working in parallel. So there is a version of you that already has that house or whatever it is you're trying to manifest, right? You literally, when you go into the state, you are literally shifting into the parallel dimension of the version of you that's already there. Very different than visualizing, which is one of the reasons, because you're very advanced. You may not even realize it, but the reason why you have visioning problems is because that ancient part of you that already knows how to do this knows that that's not really what you need to do. Okay? So yeah. I want you to I'm going to have to jump to the next person, but I want you to, in your next round of your manifesting work, I want you to sit in your chair, and I want you to just feel yourself become, like you can even envision moving into it, like walking through a veil, and now you're already in that space. And take on, and then feel how that version of Kim that's in it, that has it already, because you do. There's no linear time, and that's literally the collapsing of time. This is why when you get really advanced, your manifestations can happen almost instantaneously, because you literally, when you understand that you're switching dimension, you literally cross that veil into that dimension where everything is the same except you have that new thing. So your friends don't change, boom, and you're there. That's what your manifesting is. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes,
you got it.
Does.
You got it.
Thank you. You explained it so well. Thank you so much.
Good. I'm so glad. All right. Have a great night. Okay. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe it. We just hit the end of the show. Oh, my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to sign off because Sam's going to kill me if I go over, because I've been going over the last few weeks. But let's see if we can do a part 2 of this show, because I think this is actually good. So, and I just wanted to also let you know that I am now doing my last round of Akashic Record readings, okay? And we are more than halfway sold out of these appointments. This is going to be the last round for 2015, the last round at 2015 prices, last. And I don't know that I'll be able to do a whole lot of readings next year just because of the way all the scheduling and everything is going. But this is it for this year and these prices. So if you'd like one of those readings, please make sure to check your inbox. Make sure you're on our email list. We sent out, it's on the bottom of the sheet the email that we sent out today for the show. And if you're not on our email list, make sure you are. You can go to ahamomentsworld.com and sign up, and you'll get the notice. But I would love to have you, and we can get a lot more into this stuff there. So we will see you back here, same time, same place next week. I'll end with my motto, which is, you truly can have exactly what you want. You absolutely deserve it too. And in this new energy, anything is possible. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Aha Moments radio show with your host, Mari. Be sure to visit her blog and website at www.ahamomentsinc.com. That's AHA, moments with an S, inc.com. Also join Mari on Facebook at www.facebook.com/ahamomentsinc and Twitter at twitter.com/ahamoments. We can't wait to see you there.
that